Welcome. I'm Jim Goodrich of Continuous Process Improvement Systems, and I'd like to thank George Chow of Mannix Consulting for his collaboration on this video series. Today we're taking a storytelling journey with Sam, a CUI user at DoD Supply, as we unravel what everyday users need to know about media protection according to CMMC Level 2 and NIST 800-171 compliance. Let's dive in and see what our hero learns along the way. Let's meet our hero, Sam. She works at DoD Supply and handles both printed and digital information. Some of it's marked as CUI. Today, Sam gets a crash course on how to keep that data safe, and so will you. Why are the media protection controls so important, and what is it that they require us to do? Well, essentially, safeguarding controlled unclassified information, or CUI, is at the heart of each of the domains. Essentially, what media protection controls and requirements do is help us protect information on hard drives, thumb drives, CDs, paper, etc., any type of media. This reduces the risk of leaks, loss, and breaches. When we talk about media, we mean things like paper files, USB drives, CDs, or even backup tapes, hard copies and digital, anything that can store data. The media protection family ensures that CUI stays protected no matter where it lives. Media Protection Control 381 requires us to physically control and secure CUI media. That means let's lock it up, store it, make it secure. It's all about the physical protection of both paper or hard copy and digital media. This pretty much covers all forms. Let's say if you had a wall that you'd scratched a secret on, you need to lock the door to that room. So this means locking our desks, our cabinets, and our safes for hard copy or paper, securing rooms or locked drawers for USBs, hard drives, other digital media, and never leave CUI media unattended in open areas. Let's look at Sam. She learns that every piece of paper or digital device with CUI must be locked up when not in use. She puts files in the locked cabinet and USB drives in the secure drawer before she leaves her desk, and she makes no exceptions. Media Protection Control 382 is all about limiting access to CUI media. What does that mean? Essentially, only the right eyes and those people with the correct authorization can access. Let's look at the assessment objectives. Only authorized users can access CUI. This one's pretty simple. So we'll talk about who has access. Only the right people should have access if you need it. Don't loan out media with CUI to others. Just because a coworker asks doesn't mean they're allowed to see certain information. Sam double checks the access list before sharing that external drive and remembers, if in doubt, don't let it out. Requirement 383, sanitize or destroy before reuse or disposal. Let's look at the assessment objectives and the detail here. Sanitize or destroy media before disposal, and sanitize before release for reuse. We're talking about shredding paper with CUI on it, wiping or degaussing digital drives, and even empty USB drives must be securely erased. For instance, Sam wants to throw away a broken USB, but she remembers someone could recover files on that USB, so instead she sends it for proper destruction. When reusing an old hard drive, she erases it fully, not just deleting files. Media Protection Control 384 is all about marking CUI media with CUI labels. Remember to add CUI markings as appropriate. You may refer to NARA for CUI categories and note distribution limits. What we're talking about here is a CUI stamp or stickers on folders, USBs, CD cases, etc. Use clearly visible markings, CUI, no foreign, etc. For instance, Sam wants no mix-ups. She wants to make sure she labels every folder and drive with CUI to alert others that special care is needed and add any additional distribution notes when necessary. Requirement 3.8.5 is all about controlling access and accountability during transport. So whenever you move CUI, you're transporting it, you need to make sure there's controls and accountability on that. Let's look at the assessment objectives. A is about controlling access to CUI media, and B is about tracking CUI media during transport outside of your controlled areas. What we'll look at here is using locked briefcases, a sign-out log, and escorting transport. Never leave CUI media in a car alone, for instance. Let's look at Sam's story. She needs to bring CUI files to a partner site. She uses a lockbox and signs a media tracking log before leaving. And she keeps the media with her at all times to prevent loss or theft. Control 3.8.6 requires us to protect CUI during transport, and this means cryptography. Make sure you encrypt it when it's on the go. Let's look at the assessment level objectives. Encrypt CUI on digital media when transporting, or use alternative strong physical protection. In the cases we can't use encryption, we need to make sure it's physically very secure. What we're talking about here is using encrypted USB drives, portable drives, passwords, physical safes as an alternative. For instance, when Sam needs to ship a USB to another office, she uses an encrypted drive. If encryption isn't possible, she uses approved physical security like an armed courier or a locked safe with a tracked chain of custody for accountability. Media Protection Control 387 is about controlling removable media with proper authorizations and access. What does this mean at the assessment objective level? That's only allow authorized use of USBs and external drives. So those that have been approved and then authorized. Remember that administrative approval is needed for new drives or really any of the CUI assets. Company policies for plugging in devices is needed. So the policy level and the procedures need to cover that. When we're looking at Sam's story at DoD Supply, she must get approval before plugging in her personal USB. This typically is not going to happen in a CUI environment. Random or untrusted media can introduce viruses or leak CUI. So this becomes a huge point of vulnerability and must be controlled very tightly. Media Protection Control 3.8.8 is about banning devices with no owner. Basically, ownership is required for the correct control and stewardship of all of our CUI media. Portable storage devices must be assigned to somebody if they handle CUI. So what this means is if there's no identified owner for an asset, or if it's found, say a USB is found in the parking lot or on the workroom floor, never plug that in. Each device is logged and labeled with an owner. In the case of Sam, she finds an unlabeled USB at her desk. She remembers, if you don't know whose it is, report it. Never use it. It could be placed there by an adversary waiting to introduce malware. This rule prevents malicious devices from slipping into the network. Okay, best practice for any business or personal use for your data is to back it up. Requirement 389 is all about protecting that backup when CUI is included. Backup security. So we're talking about keeping backups of CUI confidential at all locations. And when we store backups, we need to make sure they're in a secure, access-controlled area. Only people with authorized access can get to those areas. And encrypt backup media. This is the best way. Encryption at storage, transport, or processing. And when we're talking about storing media with CUI, make sure it's encrypted. Limit, again, who can access that backup storage. So let's look at Sam. She makes backups of important CUI data monthly. She ensures backup tapes are encrypted and locked away, with access limited to just 2 IT team members in her case. Let's recap with some important do's and don'ts for media protection. This is what every CUI user really needs to remember. Physically secure all CUI. That's locking and securely storing any media with CUI. Limit access to all CUI to only authorized users. Mark, track, and protect CUI media with CUI markings. Destroy or wipe any CUI media before reuse or disposal. And never use unknown USB devices. These could contain malicious malware. And use encryption for transport and backups of CUI. And remember, whether you handle CUI once a year or every job or every day, say for your job, these basic habits keep our data and our contract and even our country safe. When in doubt, ask your security lead. Let's see what Sam would do in this situation and what you would do as well. What should Sam do with a CUI USB that she no longer needs? How should she transport printed CUI documents? And what's wrong with plugging in a mystery USB? Let's see what you've learned. What are the correct actions for these scenarios? Let's discuss with our team or send questions to myself or your security officer. If you don't know the answers to any of these questions, please feel free to reach out. And again, any questions to the previous questions, or you may have additional questions. Let's pause here for any. And of course, feel free to email me at either of the addresses below.